Hello, let's talk about what happens when object gets created and what happens when reference goes out of scope. Let's say we have this code where you can see class person, which has got name and age are instance members, and we have a parameterized constructor which takes name and age. Now in the main function, we are creating object of person P1 is equal to new person, Rohit and 35, and there are some statements, and then main function is over. So let's see what happens here. Now, when you execute this code, control goes to main function, and this line gets executed. Person P1 is equal to new person, Rohit 35. This is the way object is created in Java. So new person means object will be created on heap. So let's see. Now here this is stack. This is heap. When you say new person, Rohit 35, what happens? Object gets created, object of person class. You can also say instance. Object of person class gets created at some address. Let's say that address is 2000. And as soon as object gets created, instance members are allocated memory, that is name and age. So name and age. Instance members are allocated memory, and they are given default values. For example, name null and age 0. And then what happens? Constructor gets invoked. As you know that whenever any object gets created, first instance members are allocated memory, and then constructor gets invoked implicitly. So here we are passing Rohit and 35 while creating the object. So parameterized constructor will be invoked. We have written parameterized constructor. Control will go inside parameterized constructor. Rohit goes inside this name, which is a local variable. 35 goes inside age, which is again a local variable. And then this dot name is equal to name. This dot name is instance member. Only name means local variable. So what will happen is local variable contains Rohit, that will go to this dot name. So your instance member, which was null, now it will contain Rohit. And another instance member, this dot age is equal to age. So another instance member, which is 0, that will get 35. So you can see clearly, when the object is created, first instance members are allocated memory, and then constructor gets invoked. Now what about person P1? What is P1? P1 is a reference of person type, which will refer to the object which is created. So P1 will be always on the stack. Reference is always on the stack. So P1 gets created on the stack. P1 itself is a variable. So P1 will be allocated at some address on the stack. But more importantly, what P1 does, P1 refers to the object which is there in the heap. So P1 will contain address of that object. So whenever you want to access this object, how will you access this object? Using P1. As you know, whenever any memory gets allocated on heap, you cannot access it directly. You can always access it using reference, which is there on the reference. Oh, sorry, stack. So this is there on the stack. P1 is on stack. Okay. Now, after this object creation, there are some statements. Let us assume there are some statements written. Now, the important thing here is what happens when this bracket is encountered. What happens when this bracket is encountered? When this bracket is encountered, P1, which is a local variable inside main, P1, which is a local variable inside main, will go out of scope. Will go out of scope. So what will happen is when this bracket is encountered, since P1 goes out of scope, P1 will be destroyed. That also means this object becomes unreferenced. It means there is not a single reference referring to that object. And in Java, whenever any object becomes unreferenced, it is marked for garbage collection. It is just marked for garbage collection, that it is going to go. For a programmer, it is gone. So as soon as any object becomes unreferenced, it is marked for garbage collection. That is what happened here in this object. And after some time, it will be actually garbage collected. It will not be garbage collected immediately. As soon as this object becomes unreferenced, it will be marked for garbage collection. And after some time, it will be actually garbage collected. Now, before it gets garbage collected, I repeat, before it gets actually garbage collected, what happens? Finalize method gets called in Java. Before the object gets garbage collected, finalize method gets invoked implicitly in Java. So now you might ask, so what? Well, how can we use that finalize method? We can use finalize method if we have resources in our code. Resources means file, database connection, socket, etc. So if our program uses any of these resources, then we can use finalize method. For what purpose? We can use finalize method for releasing these resources. Okay, so I repeat, as soon as object becomes unreferenced, it will be marked for garbage collection, and after some time, it will be garbage collected. But whenever object gets garbage collected, just before that, finalize method gets called in Java. How can we use that finalize method in Java? We can use that finalize method in order to release the resources such as file, database connection, socket, etc. Okay, that's all.